Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Break at the Apex podcast. Even though we're missing our spare tire, Graham is unfortunately not here tonight. He stayed in Brazil along with Lance Stroll because he was too scared to come out of there. But actually, guys, Graham is a bit sick. Leave a like down below to send him your regards and drop a comment as well. PT, how have you been, and how was the Brazilian Grand Prix for you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to be back. Hope you guys missed me. Graham, just a side note, we are the same age. I think I'm a year older than you, or you're a year older than me. Do not party during the weekend. It's time for you to retire, but get well soon. And stop sending us those max praises and max stats on the group. We're not interested. But yeah, I'm good. Yeah, busy weekend. Like the Grand Prix itself, I enjoyed it. I was there every minute. But yeah, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm actually doing really well. Just tired, work as usual, like we just spoke about before we started recording, end of the year fatigue.
Yeah.
But it's almost December holidays, so pretty soon we'll be able to rest up. But let's actually start the conversation tonight with what you already mentioned about Max. And obviously, I know Graham is the one that usually rants about Max, but I actually want to give Max his flowers tonight because honestly, the last time we saw Max this dominant was not even 2023, it was 2022
Yeah.
when whole new Rex came in and everything. And for Max to go from P17 to first place and still win by 20 seconds in a race that we had, it I mean, with all due respect to all the Max haters, he shut up a lot of people this past weekend, and his performance was just incredible. I haven't seen that ruthless Max in a while, to be honest. Like his raw pace ruthlessness. And even though I'm not a Max fan and I don't like to admit it, Max owned everyone this weekend.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. I mean, Max is brilliant. Max is one of the best to ever do it. He is going to the F1 Hall of Fame, as I say. He is a Hall of Fame of Formula One drivers, and Max is exactly there. And look, this was clutch time for Max, and he basically showed us he was clutch. He had to win this race. He had to win this race at some point, or some way. I think second would be good, but to have that one hand on the trophy, he had to finish the race at P1. And I'm going to say this, and this might come across as controversial. If that race was not chaotic as it is, and it was a dry race, Max is not winning that race.
Mm,
Let's be fair. It took that race to be so busy, changing conditions. Teams doing unforced errors during the race
mm,
for Red Bull and Max to take advantage of that. But however, it is one of the best um, races that Max has ever done before. He is the king of the rain or the wet races, as they say. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is also the king as well in terms of rainy or chaotic races like that. And it's not like Lewis Hamilton has never done that before. He has, but today and this past weekend, it's Max, and he had to do it clutch, and that's all I'm going to say.
No, I completely agree with you, BT. Look, the entire internet exploded after the Brazilian Grand Prix, where a lot of people already stated this was Max's best drive in his career. And I wouldn't necessarily say for me personally that was his best drive ever. Just winning a race doesn't necessarily mean it's your best drive of your career. There's performances from Max with a few years back where I will say the performance itself was better, but it's definitely a top five best ever Max performances. And say what you want about the guy, he him and the combination of Red Bull, and it's something that Mercedes, I feel, have forgotten how to do. When Mercedes dominated, they were the team where no matter how chaotic it got, they managed to keep a cool head. They never made big mistakes. If they made mistakes, it was literally like so badly unforced. It just happened now and again. But Red Bull have taken that Mercedes recipe and they've honed it even more. There was no team besides Red Bull and Alpine that were not included in the chaos. Every team, whether you were Ferrari, Mercedes, or Sauber at the back, everybody was losing their heads except Red Bull and Alpine. And while mentioning the Alpines, what a performance from Ocon and Gasly to go from ninth in the constructors to sixth and jump $30 million in the constructors championship. They deserve their flowers just as much as Max, because Ocon and Gasly both had a phenomenal performance this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the Alpine came alive due to the weather conditions and the changing conditions that race. I think no one actually thought about it that it could happen, but as Max done it on the race as well, Alpine took advantage of the situation, and they also played it very well. They played it very well. Their strategy was to the point, nice and clean, and that's the result they got. I mean, they don't have the fastest car on the grid, but when it comes to situational based races, and it kind of reminds me of 2014 when Alonso almost won the Hungary Grand Prix when Ricciardo passed him. That was Ferrari taking full advantage of the conditions and just the chaos that's happening in the race as well. Because if you remember, the Ferrari car at that point was not the best car on the grid, and they almost won the race. So it's similar. You see, it's a similar situation, and I'm happy for them. They took advantage of that, and obviously they get that 50 million now. They're above Haas, and I'm sure the next three races they're not going to be up there, but if they can secure that sixth place, that money will make a difference for them next season.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, Alpine have gone through so much drama this year. I mean, shutting down the engine program, going to, what is it? I think Honda Power, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I am talking under correction there. But I mean, the Gasly Ocon fighting that we had from the start of the season, this was the first weekend that I've actually seen them not trying. It was not about beating each other. It was actually about thinking about the team. And if you take all of this into regard, all the big role swaps in the team and now losing their engine, there's so many things that played a part in Alpine. It was a swan song weekend type of thing for them. And I was just really glad to see it. But back to the Max topic to build on that. And we talk about this every podcast. And again, I will take the conditions into consideration. How on God's green earth did Perez start ahead of Max and end outside the points? And with all due respect to Lewis Hamilton, he's driving one of the worst cars on the grid when it comes to how the car feels. Not outright pace, but feeling of the car. Perez couldn't get past him and Liam Lawson. But how does Perez start 3-4 positions ahead of Verstappen and almost be lapped by his teammate come the end of that chaotic race? Honestly, if the previous race in Mexico wasn't an indication, I have no idea what Red Bull is waiting for anymore.
I mean, look, I think Red Bull is trying to stay away from the media. That's just my take. They apparently the Ricciardo thing was not dealt properly, and Graham will say this. So I think if they do the same thing with Perez as well, major distraction towards the team in terms of media outlash. I will say Perez does have sponsors that he comes with. I'm not saying it's a big factor, but they will probably lose those sponsors as well. But in terms of Perez contribution to the team and performance, this is not on. For a guy that's been in the paddock for quite some time. Alonso retired and came back, and Perez was still a driver in Formula One. He has so much experience. Can we blame the car? I don't think so. We can blame the driver. What is it? Is it age? Is it lack of hunger? Is it flat out that he has lost his touch? You know, the feeling for the car, the feeling for racing, in terms of instincts as well. We don't know. But Red Bull needs to make a decision. Either now, and I don't say that to it now, they didn't race the last three races. or end the season? That's just
No.
my question. Like,
Mhm.
do they make the decision now or later? Sorry, after the season. I think after the season, when everything has quieted down, you know, Max has won the drivers' championship. Ferrari or McLaren has won the constructors. You know, it's off season. Getting rid of Perez will go down quietly. I'm not saying the media won't speak about it, but they won't speak about it the way they would speak about it if they would sack him now. Do you understand where
Yeah.
I'm going with? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The only thing for me is now weekends like this where Max pulled out an exceptional performance. And I'm not saying Perez should have done the same thing. But on weekends like this, where McLaren were all over the show and even Ferrari, you cannot tell me that Red Bull still don't want both championships because I won't believe it. And what is the point of them being in the sport if they don't want to win both?
Yeah.
We spoke so much about it this season, the way Perez is going to cost them the Constructors' Championship, and it's busy happening. And on a weekend like this, where Max scored enough points to outscore McLaren and Ferrari, if you just take the Sunday Grand Prix in total, if Perez was, I'm not saying he should have been second, but if he was behind the two Alpines in fourth or fifth, Red Bull are back in the constructors' fight. It gives them hope. But Perez's terrible performances keeps having people lose faith in the team. And I feel when there's so much money on the line and so much development possibilities on the line, I mean, Red Bull, the big four, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, they're not developing for 2025. They're developing for the new regs in 2026. They need every penny they can get their hands on. And now Red Bull going from leading the constructors by a country mile might lose it by a country mile now due to Perez. That's the only thing. I understand the media controversy it will cause if they just sack him before we get to Vegas. But honestly, I would, if I was in the shoes of Red Bull higher ups and Christian Horner, I would not care because I've got a business to run. Formula One team is still a business. I've got a business to run, and my team is busy losing something that we need for the future. That's the only way I see it. But I mean, it's just I mean, Perez spun on lap two. Unforced error. Nobody was near him. Just whoop, there he goes. And it's just like it was almost besides the fact that Stroll did it on the formation lap and then decided to go play sandcastles in the gravel trap. It was such an unforced error. We're going to get to Stroll eventually, but I mean, I don't understand Red Bull's way of thinking about this. But in any case, let's stick with the championship fight. And BT, I've been saying it for a few weeks now, but I think it's now official. The championship is over for Lando Norris. I mean, latest reports, if Max outscores Lando with 2 points in Vegas, Max takes it. And McLaren literally, after qualifying on Sunday morning, had the perfect recipe to make sure that Lando wins, to make sure no matter what happens to Max, even if he comes second, Lando can bank 25, maybe even 26 points if there's a way to get fastest lap. And McLaren and Lando fumbled the ball so badly this weekend. It's literally been the race that has officially cost them the championship.
Yeah, I mean, we did speak about it yesterday, and I said I'm so frustrated with McLaren. I mean, first of all, let me start with Norris. Norris, what's happening when you starting on pole? Why can't you hold position? What are you doing before taking off? What are you doing wrong when you do taking off after the green line? Are you confused if you should protect your position or cover something? Like what's happening? Like you basically losing points, and the championship is drifting so away from you by you not keeping your position at the start of the race. This race was a easy pie for him. Easy pie. He qualified P1. This race was for you to win. So the question is now, what else can he do? He made a mistake through the formation lap. where apparently he done an extra formation lap without the FIA telling all drivers to do a formation lap. And I'm going to go to the team. The team, are you guys talking with Norris throughout the race and before the start? Why is Norris doing that, causing you guys to be investigated if you guys can't actually guide Norris to tell him, look, do not go, okay, go, and stuff like that? Because that's an unnecessary, it's an unforced error
Mm,
by the team and by him as well. So it was a dismal weekend. And I will say, when it comes to what I said in our mid-season podcast, Norris just doesn't have that thing in him. He doesn't have that. I'm not going to say focus. He doesn't have that switch that Max's has where it's crunch time. I have to get
mm,
this done, for me to survive. He doesn't have the survival mode behavior in him. And that's costing him. Hopefully, he'll learn through this season and look back next year when the car maybe it's much better. Because I said on our group is that McLaren are acting like teams are not going to improve next year. Ferrari is good. Ferrari is very strong. Ferrari could easily win.
uh,
Ferrari could easily win the championship next year.
yeah,
They it could happen. Red Bull might come back and be dominant again. So in Formula One, when you have that one chance to actually win a championship, you take it.
yeah.
You take it, and they McLaren will look back in this season and look at all the mistakes they've done throughout the season and want to hang themselves. I'm sorry for saying that, but it will look like that. So I hope as well, Norris, the experience in this season, first time him contending for a championship, you will learn through his mistakes as well and rectify them for next year. Not saying he's a bad driver, he's an awesome driver, he's a pure talent, could be one of the best, but there's a few things that he needs to polish up before he reaches Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Vettel, Schumacher, all those
Mm.
drivers' status. Um, and that's all I can say. I don't wanna say anything more than might be demeaning towards him, but I just feel like this was a missed opportunity for McLaren and for Norris as well. Because how does he know that this could have been his first and last championship for his rest of his career?
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, BT. The one thing that really stood out for me, and I heard a bunch of other podcasts talk about this, and they had a good point on it. Look, I'll admit I have been very hard on Norris this season ever since it looked like he could battle for the championship. I was with you in the same boat of Norris doesn't have that factor of the switch that Max, Lewis, Alonso, Vettel, all of those guys had. One thing that I have to admit though, and that we have to look at is Lando, first of all, is still very young. And secondly, he is going up against probably in the last 20 years, he's going up against one of the toughest championship contenders and one of the most ruthless championship contenders in Max Verstappen. That I will give to him. The one thing that I can't do is there has been so many points in this season where that McLaren has been leaps and bounds better than any of the other three top cars. And McLaren didn't capitalize on every single one of those moments. They capitalized on a few of them. If you look at Zandvoort, if you look at Hungary, Monza, maybe until Leclerc pulled the ultimate strategy. Viva
Yeah.
Leclerc. But there were instances this season where, with all due respect, Lando should have been leading the championship by now. Max should have been the one chasing. And I, the reason I'm saying I've been a little bit too hard on Lando this season is the fact that he's still young. If McLaren develop a car for him or he jumps ship to another team and he has a world championship winning car, there's still more than enough chance for Lando to win a championship. But it's not going to happen until he finds that switch of, okay, now it's about me. Now it's about I need to own up to what everybody is expecting of me. And until Lando does that, which Leclerc has done this season, I don't see Lando winning a championship. But there's still a big possibility. And besides Fernando Alonso, who he won against Schumacher in the first season,
I was about to bring up that point. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He in the last 20 years, he's been the only driver to do that. Because I mean, Hamilton in '07, he put it in the gravel in the pit lane in China. Vettel in '09, a lot of crashes, a lot of mistakes. And by mid-season, the Red Bull was leaps and bounds ahead of the Brawn. And those were the two big championship contenders um, before Hamilton and now Verstappen. So Lando is in a group of very talented drivers who have achieved a lot, but he needs to switch it on sooner rather than later, because currently, and Ferrari are not holding back with this. There's been so many press releases where Ferrari keep building up their 2025 car. They are so confident. It's the most confident they've been in years. Mercedes haven't really said much yet, but they never do. Red Bull say they've figured something out. And McLaren with their current concept, last year's the final year. If they have a pace improvement, they will be in championship contention. But then Lando needs to be literally turned on from the 5 red lights in Australia next season. Otherwise, it's going to be between Max and Charles, and probably Lewis, if you take that into consideration. But in any case, let's move on. I think we've both said our piece about Lando.
Before you move on, Dirk,
SVT.
The thing that is young, I do get it, right? I'm not comparing Norris to Alonso. Alonso was very young when he won those 2 championships, and he was going against who?
Schumacher.
So if I'm not comparing Alonso to Norris, I'm going to say it again, but it did show it is possible.
Yes.
Maybe because Alonso was going against Schumacher, and Schumacher was in the twilight of his career. He was much older. I mean, still young. But if you actually look at it, it is possible to do it. It is possible. However, maybe he's not ready for it. And it's fine. It's fine. There's no pressure. But as you said, he's still young and he might get another opportunity to go to another team, or McLaren might have this run again. But that's a hope. That's a hope. You're talking about now. When you have the opportunity now, you close it down. Unfortunately, Max is Max, and he's not going to make it easy for you to beat him. Unfortunately.
Yeah, never.
That's all. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's for those people that don't know, my job is I'm within the sales part of things, and there's one thing that everybody who has been a salesman in their career knows, and that's the sentence that says always be closing, and that's what Lando needs to start doing. He's got the deal ahead of him. It's the Formula One World Championship, the most prestigious championship in all of motorsport. He needs to be closing, and this season he hasn't done it. So, look, there's still a chance, but literally Max needs to DNF out of 2 Grand Prix, and we've only got 3 left.
Yeah.
So the chances are highly unlikely. As far as I'm concerned, it's McLaren versus Ferrari versus Red Bull for the constructors now. And I'm still curious about that. I mean, the difference between Alpine, Haas, and RB are 5 points, if I'm not mistaken, for 6th in the constructors. So there's still a lot to fight for and a lot to look forward to. I do want to tell the viewers now that it's almost the bullet's almost through the church that Max wins the championship. Don't miss these last 3 races of the season. Yeah. There's still going to be more than enough action and more than enough entertainment for everybody. And BT, another team that I actually want to talk about that actually deserves to be talked about is RB. Besides the whole Lawson Perez thing that we've talked about way too much already, I just want to give a round of applause to Tsunoda and to Lawson this weekend. 3rd and 5th on the grid. And even though their car was not the best in racing conditions in the rain, they still managed solid points this weekend. And both of them made minimal mistakes this weekend and grasped every opportunity that they got. Yuki Tsunoda on Sunday morning in qualifying, he was on provisional pole position in Q1 and Q2 at a stage. And I was like, where's this kid come from? All of a sudden, he's got the pace of the front runners. And again, I just want to give a round of applause to RB this weekend. The battle between them, Alpine and Haas, are definitely on. Alpine haven't looked too bad in the hands of Gasly in the dry in the past few race weekends. So Alpine still have a chance. But it's Gasly. It's almost the same as Max versus McLaren and Ferrari. It is now, if Ocon doesn't pull up his socks, it's going to be Gasly versus RB and Haas. And it's a battle I'm really looking forward to. But just well done to Sonoda and to Lawson this weekend. They really came to play, and it was an exceptional performance.
Yeah, no, I mean, they showed off their talents this past weekend in Brazil. And you know what? Like, I'm tired of Graham saying, Sonoda is not that good. Oh, Lawson is eating for mismate. Look, I want this driver pairing for next year as well, so we can see a full season of them competing. And I think that's when we can make a decision who's better. I'm not saying Sonoda's better than Lawson. I'm not saying Lawson's better than Sonoda. It's it's a it's a yin yang effect at the not a yin yang, but it's very hard to make that assumption, you know.
Mm.
And it also comes to driver preference. And I think Graham goes through goes by the driver preference kind of way where he prefers Lawson, but I think Sonoda can also be there up there with Lawson, and it showed in this race as well. So what I would like to see is a full season of them being teammates, and then we'll make a decision who's better or not. You understand? That's what I'm going to say regarding that subject.
No, BT, on that, I agree with you. I would also much more prefer to see Yuki and Lawson alongside each other for a whole season. The one thing that I will say about Yuki compared to Lawson that you can already see is Yuki is more prone to making mistakes. Yuki cracks under pressure a bit easier than Lawson.
Yes.
Besides that, Yuki on his day, and as he's gotten more experiences, it happens more often than not. On his day, Yuki is a damn fast driver. And this weekend, and again, I understand Lawson doesn't have the experience that Yuki has at this stage, but by the hype that Lawson is carried by, this weekend, Lawson, according to hype, should have absolutely thrashed Yuki. And Yuki was untouchable on Friday in the dry, in the practice and the sprint quali. He come Saturday when it was raining, he was still untouchable. So Yuki on his day is a very, very good driver. And I agree with you. Having those two next to each other a full season, even though that's very unlikely we'll have that, would be a great way to see really how good Yuki is. Because I feel someone like Lawson is probably going to challenge him. Because with Ricciardo in the seat the past few seasons, it's the same effect with Albon when he had Latifi and Sargent. He didn't have a driver challenging him and pushing him. Colapinto arrives and Albon realizes, oh, damn it, I can't be chilling anymore. And it was the same with Yuki. And again, all due respect to Daniel Ricciardo, but Yuki could really, he could chill a bit more because Ricciardo wasn't that big of a threat.
Yeah.
Now he's got a young guy who is very, very directly aiming for that second Red Bull seat. And nobody can tell me Yuki doesn't want to be there. Even though Red Bull might not want him, Yuki wants that seat. And he will do anything to prove that. So in that regard, I completely agree with you. But BT, it's just one thing that I think we need to talk about more. And that is the Aston Martin camp. We haven't talked about them a lot recently. We're going to get to the window liquor in a second. I quickly want to talk about Fernando. First of all, that radio message in the race where Alonso said he's going to finish the race for the mechanics, but his back is killing him. For all the people on the internet that say, oh, Alonso's old, look, the proof is in the pudding. Hamilton has been complaining about his back since he started at Mercedes in 2014. If a track is bumpy, a track is bumpy. And don't tell me Alonso was the only one feeling it. Everybody felt it in that race. But besides that, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in Alonso this weekend. I just expected a bit more. Because we spoke about it earlier with Max being the wet weather king, Lewis being so exceptional in wet weather, and Alonso is a driver that is very, very much part of that category. And Sunday morning in qualifying, Alonso was running with Yuki. He was fast. And I feel after his crash in qualifying, it's as if, okay, I'm using the following reference for a lack of a better word, but it's as if Alonso almost got scared of the conditions. I know he didn't, but it's as if he lost confidence in himself and in the car, because he also wasn't there in the race. He made mistakes in the race, and that's not the Fernando we're used to seeing. I don't know what your opinion is, BT, but for me, it was just like I felt this was a weekend where Alonso was. I had this feeling of Alonso is going to prove just again how good he is, and it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, remember in Mexico, he didn't go to the drivers' conference because he was sick. So the question is now is he fully healthy? I doubt so. But
Mm,
knowing Alonso, he comes from the old spec of drivers where if he's sick, he will drive. He will try to
mm,
be there for the team. So my excuse for him or my reasoning for the performing is that his performance during this weekend is that, especially in the race, I don't think he's 100% healthy. And he's not 100% healthy, and the car is not that good. We know Alonso is one of those drivers that overdrives the car. You know, even
mm.
if he has a crap car, you will be within the points. But lately, he hasn't been doing that. Also, we have a question: has he lost confidence on
Mm.
the car in this season? Is he also waiting until next year? Is Adrian Newey starting next year to with him or the following year?
So Adrian Newey's contract at Red Bull, as far as I'm concerned, again talking under correction, as far as I know, his contract with Red Bull ends in about March, and then he's jumping directly to Aston Martin. Basically, he's going to be there to help them with the 2026 development of the new car and developing the new
Yeah,
car. But next season, he's just going to start to get integrated into the team, and then 2026 is when Aston Martin want to be there.
yeah. Look, it's also I think it's just the performance of the car as well. It's just him lacking motivation. I mean, we all know that Aston Martin has brought upgrades in Mexico. They didn't work. So that can also be demotivating. He hasn't been well in terms of health as well. So we can't expect him to be the Alonso that we know. So if those two are a combination, then we're gonna get the result that we got this past weekend in Brazil. So I'm not making any excuses for him, but the man has done what he could do with the car. He has had an inconsistent. He's been inconsistent this season compared to
Mm.
2023. And 2023, the car was actually good compared to
Yeah.
this season. So initially, Aston Martin has gone backwards, and Alonso as well, health wise, motivation wise, maybe it's not going well. And if those two are coming together, it's a recipe for disaster and not being there in terms of points as well. So I could say it's just that basically. To me, it's nothing serious. I mean, he's still going to be in the team. They've made a great signing with Aiden Newey, and that's something to look forward to.
Mm. No, now that you put it into that perspective, I actually forgot that Fernando got sick over the Mexican Grand Prix weekend. Um, I honestly, the one thing that really hit me there is the fact that you mentioned that the season is almost over, and the fact that the car just no matter what he does, it just doesn't work. And Alonso being Alonso will always overdrive. And unfortunately, the conditions this weekend didn't allow for drivers to overdrive. It
Yes.
was just too sketchy. So I think Alonso, out of desperation, tried to overdrive, and that's what forced the mistakes. But yeah, it was just sad to see. But
Yeah,
now
it was.
go
It was.
let's go to the meme of the weekend. Now this guy, okay, Graham can lick his rear as much as he wants. And you guys can tease me about Sargent as much as you want. But Lance Stroll, I understand. Sketchy weather, it's easy to lock a brake and skid off the track. I don't have a problem with the fact that he spun on the formation lap. It happens in Formula One. But the fact that he goes through the deepest gravel trap of the racetrack after it's been absolutely pissing with rain for the past 3 days, and he thinks I'm just gonna Toyota Land Cruiser it through this. I'm gonna be fine. And then standing there and watching the other drivers come through for their second formation lap, the level of idiocy in that in that minute and a half for me exceeds all expectations. And I am sorry. I understand Lawrence Stroll is his father. But you can't tell me that besides Lawrence Stroll, there is people at Aston Martin that are like, yeah, no, he's good. Let's keep him in the team. We don't need someone else. This guy, man, why? We've seen it now with Lawson, with Ollie Behrman, all these good young drivers coming through the ranks, and they are actually so damn good. Aston Martin have got a Formula 2 champion, Felipe Drugovich, as their backup driver. Why? Why on God's green earth is he still in that Aston Martin? It's honestly for me getting to a point now where it's worse than Latifi and Sargent in the Williams. It's that level for me right now. And BT, I don't know about you, but if I don't shut up, I'm gonna rant on about this for 6 hours.
I mean, look, bruh, I'm gonna keep it short. Stroll's Lance Stroll's father, what are you going to do when Adrian Newey designs a championship car for you? Are you going to tell your son to step up, or you're just going to ride the wave and let him make mistakes? Because when that championship car is built for you, it will be crunch time.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing you as well, Lance's father, you're going to want to win a championship.
Oh, yes.
Alonso will be fairly old by 2026 or 2027. You have to rely on another driver, maybe. And are you telling me you're going to rely on your son, Lance, to win a championship? That's all I'm going to say.
There's no way. I mean, I actually laid in bed last night thinking about this. Imagine Stroll is in Norris's position against Verstappen. There is no way on this planet that Stroll is beating Verstappen unless they literally strap a rocket to the back of that car. There's no way he's beating Verstappen. There's no way he's beating a Hamilton. I would even argue that there's not even a chance that he will beat a Norris or a Russell who's dominating a championship. He won't. He just doesn't have the ability to concentrate when it's crunch time. It's the end of the season. Aston Martin are sixth in the championship. This weekend, Alpine have jumped up. And Alpine can catch them now. Haas can still catch them, as well as RB. And Stroll just decides, you know what? Weather is crap. My teammate is sick. He's probably not going to do too well. So I think I can just park it in the gravel trap. Yeah, that's a good idea. I feel like taking an early day and getting in the hot tub. I know that wasn't his thinking, but still, that's how it looks. And he's making that team look like a laughing stock.
Yes.
It's terrible.
I mean, you made a mistake in qualifying, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Then it makes a mistake in the formation lap. How many mistakes do you need to do or need to make?
I mean, Aston Martin had 3 hours to rebuild that car, which they did. Aston Martin was the only team that rebuilt both because both their cars crashed in qualifying. Alonso's was a lot less hectic than Stroll's, admittedly, but Williams crashed both cars, okay? Colapinto and Albon crashed in qualifying. Albon didn't start the race. Ferrari had Sainz crashing. Sainz started from the pit lane. Aston Martin crashed both cars. Both cars made it to the grid without any penalties being handed out to them. They spent 3 hours of blood, sweat, and tears rebuilding both those cars for Stroll to ditch it on the formation lap.
Yeah, and I have no words, bro. I have no words. And the thing is that the sad situation about this is that this team is on the right path in terms of wanting to win a championship. We're not going to talk about this season. In the right path by signing Adrian Newey. That means they want to win something.
Mm.
in a couple of years' time. They signed Alonso. It also means that when they get that car, they want a driver that has experience in winning a championship.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to win a championship in terms of constructors, you need a strong second driver as well. I don't think Stroll is that. Are you telling me Stroll will be able to support Alonso during a championship season?
There's no way. It comes back to the same conversation for if Stroll had to battle a Verstappen or a Hamilton for a championship. There is no way. We know how ruthless Alonso gets when it's championship crunch time. We saw it against Vettel. We saw it throughout his career. He is just an older version of Verstappen. He battled Schumacher for championships, for Pete's sake. Are you telling me that he's going to be like, nah, your daddy's paying me a lot of money. There you go, Stroll. Go take the drivers. There's no way.
There's
no way that is happening. And again, I understand if you are a multi-time billionaire, you can do whatever you want. But seriously, the fact that this team is now becoming a laughing stock due to Stroll, for me, is unacceptable in the world of Formula One. And I just don't see how Lawrence Stroll can keep making excuses and keep fumbling stuff to make sure his son stays in that car. There's so many drivers that would give anything to be next to Alonso in that car, even if the car's crap. They just want a seat to prove themselves. And Stroll is just sitting there, eating his expensive dinners, driving one of the fastest cars in the world, and just bending it in the gravel trap. But in any case, BT, I think we've ranted enough about Stroll, unless you want to add something lastly.
No, we're not interested.
Thank you. But let's just quickly round up this podcast. BT, your blooper of the weekend. Shoot.
Stroll and McLaren and Norris pitting while the virtual safety car is ending. Those are the two bloopers that I have, to be honest with you.
Honestly, the blooper for me this weekend was literally a battle between McLaren and Lando Norris itself. Piastri at least, I'm not saying Lando didn't try, but Piastri looked more confident in what he was doing, even though he was slightly slower than Norris. But Lando just this weekend made so many mistakes. So for me, it's got to be Lando Norris. And then obviously Stroll is definitely within that conversation. But besides the point, moment of the weekend for you, BT.
Moment of the weekend is, there's two that are quite obvious, to be honest with you. But I just have to give it to the two RBs for qualifying in the top 10. That was amazing. For Tsunoda to be P3, that was amazing for me. I never saw that coming. So that's my moment of the weekend.
I agree with you. I literally said to my housemate after qualifying Sunday morning, I was like, what is this grid? We've got Lando and Russell, and then it's Tsunoda, Ocon, and Lawson, and then it's the rest of the guys that we expect to be Norris and Russell. Qualifying was insane. So no, I definitely second that. For me, definitely. And Graham, you can start celebrating. So because I have this still probably a once of a lifetime thing that's going to happen. But I'm honestly going to give my moments of the weekend to Max. Besides the fact that he struggled to catch Ocon when Ocon was leading, when Max got past, and the commentator said it so clearly that clean air is king. And when Max finally got out of Ocon's dirty air and he could finally see without that intense amount of spray, Max was untouchable. So my moment of the weekend goes to Max.
And
BT,
he was in P10 after the second lap. That's bonkers, bro. That is bonkers. That's not normal. It's not normal.
No, it's not. Max is a different breed when it comes to wet weather racing. And again, all the flowers that Max deserves, he gets from me. And then BT, finally, your race rating for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
You know what? I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
I enjoyed the race. I really enjoyed the race. I enjoyed the chaos. I enjoyed the strategy part of it, the mistakes that were made. I mean, Russell was brilliant in this race. You didn't speak about him,
Yes,
but
yes, it was.
Russell was brilliant. So all the drivers that we were not actually paying attention, like looking at and thinking that they were going to perform in this race, they all performed, and I think that what made the race so awesome to me. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. Actually, another driver, even though it didn't look like he did anything, I want to give a shout out to Charles. Charles, the Ferrari was terrible in the wet weather. That car was actually a lot faster than I expected on Friday when it was dry. I
Yeah.
honestly thought they were even going to be behind Mercedes because in previous seasons, the Ferraris were just terrible around Brazil. And after Friday, I was like, oh man, if it doesn't rain, Ferrari look good here. They really look good. But that car in the rain was an absolute dog. And we saw how tough Sainz had it. So I just wanted to give Charles a shout out as well. Also a brilliant weekend from Charles. And then my race rating, honestly, chaotic wise and unpredictability wise, it was a very good race. For me personally, not the race of the season.
Mm.
I can't give it a 10 out of 10, but I still enjoyed it very thoroughly. So for me, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Still a good race and a race that it's a race that I'll one day show to my kids. It's a race that I wouldn't mind watching again.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been this version of the podcast. 3 races to go. Lewis, you need to hold on for 3, brother. It's better. It's not greener. It's better because it's redder on the other side. 3 to go, bud. And remember, you park the Merc in the Ferrari garage on the in lap in Abu Dhabi just to give Merc a thank you for nothing moment. But yeah, BT, your final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Look, Hamilton, you are done with that team. Your attitude shows, your body language shows that you're done with that team. So it's 3 more races until you join us. So just take that motivation and run with it. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great show. It's good to be back. We didn't miss Graham. I hope he doesn't take this personally. And we'll see you guys in Las Vegas, which is it's one of the most exciting races in the grid. Sorry, in within the calendar. So we know Ferrari is going to be fast there. That's what we know. Ferrari is going to be fast in Las Vegas. You saw what Leclerc done last season against the Red Bulls. So I'm looking forward to that. And please don't forget to subscribe, guys. We'll see you in the next 3 weeks. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, guys, like BT said, don't forget to hit the subscribe down below. Also, communicate with us in the comments down below. And also remember to drop that like down below. Lewis, just imagine it's a Ferrari, bud. It's going to get you there sooner. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, bye.